this week's video lesson. Today we are looking at the Indigo Girls, Closer to Fine. For getting started, we are capoed up here on the 2nd fret, so if you want your song to match the same key as the Indigo Girls play on the recording, you want to make sure you have your capo locked up here on the 2nd fret. Now, to get started on this song, this is a very rhythm-focused song, so a lot of our work is going to be paying attention to what our right hand is doing. Our chord shapes stay pretty consistent, but they are kind of mixed up as we work through our chorus, pre-chorus, and then, of course, in the verses. But what we're going to focus on for this lesson is that main riff that's used in the beginning and in the verse of the song. So let's take a look at our left hand, get those chord shapes under control, then we will shift over to our right. Now to get started, the first chord shape you're going to use is a variation of your G major chord. Normally when you and I approach that G major, we are in our standard shape using our ring finger here on the 1st fret of the high E string, and then of course middle finger, low E string, and then index finger on the A string. For this one, what we're doing is we're adding a high, we're capoed, so it's slightly different, but we're essentially adding a high D note to the chord. Well, a D note is in your G major chord. This is just adding an octave so that it stands out a little bit. So what you're going to do is take your ring finger and move it over to the 3rd fret of your 2nd string. And your ring finger, your pinky is going to take over for your ring finger on that high E string. So if you're looking at your chord shape, you're holding down both your B and high E string on the 3rd fret, and then you're finishing the rest of your G major chord. So this is your first shape. These two fingers, this ring finger and middle finger, why can't I talk today? Your ring finger and your little finger are going to hang out in this shape for pretty much the entire song. It's these two guys, your bass strings, that are going to be very important to getting the riff of this song down. So you have your G chord. From here we're going to move, we're going to hammer on using your index finger on the 2nd fret of your D string. And you're going to pluck your A string and D string together, almost as if they're a separate chord. And really, they're going to help accent your chord. But so you have moved from your G to your index finger on the 2nd fret of your 4th string or your D string, and your ring finger and middle finger are still hanging out on these top 2 strings. Then you're going to bring your middle finger over to this 3rd fret of your A string, keeping the rest of the fingers in place. This is pretty much your C add 9 chord. But if you think of it more that you are just adding a finger to the shape you had before, that's going to help you find your way around. So let's review those 3 chord shapes. You have your standard G major. Then you're going to just use your index finger on your 2nd fret of your D string. And then add your middle finger to your 3rd fret of your A string for your C add 9. Let's do those 3 chords a little faster. Following those 3 chords, we're going to hop up to our D major chord, which you're already familiar with, but we are going to add our little finger to the 4th fret of our high E string. Next strum, we're going to do just our standard D major chord. And then we're going to open up that E string, that high E string, by removing our middle finger, putting it back down for your D chord. Let's do it one more time. Little finger, standard D major, middle finger up, E string open, and then back down for your standard D major. Let's review all of those chord shapes now put together. We have our G major. Moving over, index finger on your D string, 2nd fret. Add that middle finger to your 3rd fret of your A string for your C, add 9. D chord with the middle finger added. D major, middle finger up and off, open E string, and back to your D major. Now we're looking at the right hand because the right hand is going to really determine what your listener is hearing. Again, we're going to be separating your guitar into 2 pieces. Your bass, of course, is your low E through your D string, and then your G through your high E string is going to be what your treble guitar is playing. And the reason it's so essential to this song is because when the Indigo girls play this, they're using that bass part, those 3 bass strings, to accent each beat. So it's almost like finger picking by strumming. What I mean is, when you're in that G major chord, you're going to strum, just half strum, only those 3 bottom strings. And you're going to follow that up with the remaining half of the guitar, your G through high E string. When you switch to your next chord, you're going to do the same thing, and this is why it's so important. Because your high E string and B string don't change through the majority of the song, what you play in your low end of the guitar is what's going to give the listener some form to this song. So you really have to make sure you accent those low bass strings. So we were on our G. Switch to your next chord, which is index finger on the 2nd fret of your D string, and do that same strumming pattern. Go into your C, add 9, accent those bass strings first. Let's review just those 3 chords in that strumming pattern. Half strum on the G, followed by a half strum on the higher strings. Then into your index finger on the D string, half strum again. And then into your C, add 9. When we get to the D progression, our D chord progression, this is where we're going to have a slight change. Now don't overthink this, but what is going to happen is we have been focusing on that down strum as our accent. When we get to these D chords, we're going to let that E string really shine through because that's where we have most of the movement. So to have it stand out, you switch the accent from your down strum to your up strum. Because what you want to have happen is your high E string wants to be hit first so that a listener can hear each change that you're making. It's going to make those higher strings louder and stand out a little bit more. So let me play it for you with just the up strum accent so you can hear how it's going to convey to a listener. Let's do it again. Now we're going to put all 3 of those parts together, both of those parts together, and we're going to do it focusing just on that accent beat now, so we haven't quite addressed exactly what your strumming pattern will be for the right hand. You're focusing just on accent for the time being. Let's start on that G major chord. And we're going to split your guitar into 2 pieces. Bass first, treble. Next chord, index finger, D string, bass, treble. Then we're going to switch into our C add 9, bass strings, followed by the treble. And here we're going to switch to our upstrum accent, starting with that D suspended 4, which means your little finger is on the high E string on the 3rd fret, and upstrum. Again, a little faster.